Okay, last time we did a video on serve receive. This time let's take a look at video on pin attacker strategies. A lot of the concept here will also apply to middle blockers as well.
Hi, I'm Coach Kirai, head coach of the USA Women's National Indoor Team. And we're going to talk a little about how you can improve your what we would call pin attacker effectiveness. Well, I'm calling it here pin attacker upgrades. So let's dive right in. First, we've got three main things for you, three main concepts for you to focus on. The one would be what we call our hitter checklist. And of course, I will explain what that means, but that's something that you can do before the play even starts to be more prepared, because it's difficult to make fast decisions as the ball's in the air.
Yeah, before the play happens means before the serve. That you need to look at those points before the serve happens.
Next, we have what we would call hitter transition, especially when you come down from a blocking position, but also from defense. How do you get ready to attack? Go from block and defense to attack. And then third, we have what we call our hitter toolkit. And if you can have more tools in your kit, you can actually have more answers to the problem that is the other team across the net, the block and defense. So we'll go to the hitter checklist first. We have three parts to that. First one's pretty easy. That's called, we just say, what's my route? Now, when your team is receiving serve, that's easy. Most outside hitters might say, I'm going to hit on the left side. We call it a go, something faster, maybe something slower. Every team has names for these sets. And if you're an opposite, maybe hitting on the other side of the court, same thing. It's easy to not be on the same page as your setter, though. So it's also easy to fix. Talk to your setter. Make sure you're on the same page and both of you know what route you're running before the other team serves them.
Yeah, knowing your setter tendencies also. Some setters like to set the ball a little bit lower, some setters like to push them higher. So for setters, it's really important you keep things consistent. You don't want a low set and follow up by a high set. That makes it really hard to sync up with you.
The ball. So that's key. And if the rally goes on, you're the one who needs to be really loud for your setter and let your setter know what route you're running. So number one, what's my route? Be really clear on that and have your teammates be clear also. Next is, who are the blockers across the net? Look across and figure out, all right, who might likely be blocking against me when I actually do attack? It's important to pay attention to those different people and their strengths and weaknesses.
Especially looking at the blockers, you should know how big of a blocker you have ahead of you before the serve is served.
And then third, the question would be, where is my giveaway? Giveaway is a term that we use if we don't have a really good chance to take a big swing, to try to score a point directly. How do I cause the most trouble across the net? All right, so we'll look at a couple of examples here on the screen. We're going to go through our hitter checklist. So I'm getting my cursor hovering around Michelle Barch-Hackley, who was one of our outsides at the Tokyo Olympics. She looks across the net on her hitter checklist. First of all, she knows she's probably hitting what we call a go. Then she looks across, who are the blockers? Well, she's got a very tall Serbian opposite who is a good blocker, because not only is she tall, but she jumps well. So Barchi, as we call her, should be aware of that. And then she also sees a middle who's a high-flying middle. So this is not going to be a weak block against her. On the other side on the other sideline, we have our opposite, Annie Drews, and she can look over and see, all right, the blocker right in front of me, the wing blocker, isn't going to probably be as efficient or as effective as those other two. That's really helpful to know. Then they also can take a look at, okay, I talked about it before, where's the giveaway? So for Barchi, she might want to, if she doesn't have a chance for a kill, she might want to get the ball to the Serbian setter to take her out of the play so the setter can't run the offense anymore. Annie probably doesn't want to get the ball to their best defensive player. That's usually what's usually the case with the person who wears the different colored jersey, the libero or the libero, or as we say, the bro. So Annie will want to keep it somewhere else. She might even want to put it, if she did tip over the block, she might want to get the Serbian opposite on the floor. Let's look at one more example. Okay, so when we're serving, it's still also important to take a look across the net and see who your blockers might be and where we can cause the most trouble. A thing that might jump out here is Barchi can look across the net and see that the Dominican setter, who is not the strongest blocker, will be against her if we actually come up with a dig and get her the set. So that's a really good thing for Barchi to know, and then she won't have to remember it as the rally is going on. So again, to review, hitter checklist, three things. What's my route? who are the blockers across the net, and where can I cause the most trouble with a giveaway if I don't have a chance to go for the point, go for the...
The point on the giveaway is that depending on the set and depending on how the block is set up, there you might need to go down to have a few options and go down the list on which one is the most disruptive given the set. If the blocker is right in my face blocking the setter from my view, I might need to go with something else. So have at least two that you can play around with. At the higher levels, there might be even 3 of them.
The kill. Next, let's go to hitter transition. Certainly a big question is it more about effort or is it more about technique? Like what steps do I take, how many? And really what it boils down to, and you'll see in some of the video that I show you, is that it's much more about effort than about having perfect or great technique. This is something that you can control. Just like you can control the hitter checklist, you can control your effort. And massive effort means you're going to get more chances, put yourself in a position to do good things with a good set, but also good things with a bad set.
Yeah, the effort versus technique, of course, at a national level, it's all about the effort. But for normal people like us, it's probably half and half. Is that you need to get your steps down, get your timing down before you can talk about the effort. Because you can jump away at the ball and promise you nothing will happen if you don't use the at least a 2-step approach. And all this says really to me is that the approach is for your way of getting to the ball. You can make the perfect approach and transfer your momentum into the ball to get a harder hit, yes, but that might happen 1 in 10 balls. Just because there's so many variables for you to perfectly sync up with the setter, it's very rare. So don't plan on that. Plan for getting better hits more times rather than that perfect hit that one time.
Or a tough set. One thing to remember is if you're blocking, come down running. As soon as you come down, just get going.
Let's back up a little bit.
If you're blocking, come down running. As soon as you come down, just get going. Think like somebody on your team is going to come up with the ball, and the faster you get back and ready to attack, the better position you'll be in and the more good you can do for your team.
Yeah, at someone that's 5'6", that is mostly correct, probably 90% correct. There's 5 to 10% of the time that if the ball is coming too fast, I might not be able to transition. Is that I need to be able to make an approach with basically no space. So finding a way to do that. And also the one rare exception is that if the back row shanks a ball at your face, you need to jump up and do something with that ball. Either set the ball or be offensive with the ball, because chances are it's flying towards your face, the setter won't be able to get it, and you instantly lose the point if you don't get a hand on it. Again, 90% of the time, yes, you do want to transition as soon as possible, but just be aware of there's 5 to 10% of the times other things may happen, and be ready for them.
All right, so we'll take a look at some transition here. And again, some of these are not perfect technique at all, but it's just about effort. So let's take a look here at this transition effort. First one.
Oh, let's slow the video down a little bit. Go to the normal.
One is Jordan Larson in the middle. She actually hesitates a little, but then sprints off. And look at that. She gets herself a great swing. I'll show it to you again in slow motion. First, she has to block in the middle of the court. That's a long way from where she has to.
So Jordan Larson here is probably looking on where the ball is. She needs to jump up to make offensive play. As soon as she realizes that she doesn't have to do that, she is backing off.
She realizes, whoa, the dig came up. She sprints back to her blocking position. Yeah, she could have done it a little faster. She could have come down more.
So that was a really high pass right there that she was able to go from right next to the middle all the way out to there. But if you sort of let's slow it down a little bit on that transition.
And she realizes, whoa, the dig came up.
So as you can see, she's turning her body. Is that if the ball was any lower or any faster, she would be ready to get to here and make the hit at the 3 spot. Every step she is ready to pivot and try and go take her forward approach. But given that this is a really high pass, she's actually making it all the way out to the sideline.
She sprints.
So you can see that if she transferred her momentum right here, that's a normal approach. She could have done that as an option.
Back to her.
Given that the setter still hasn't touched the ball, she is continuing transitioning, getting all the way out to her spot. And notice that as a really tall hitter, she's on the 10-foot line. She is not getting out all the way to 15 or even 20, given that this pass is on 15, about the 15-foot line. So she's on the 10-foot line.
Blocking position. Yeah, she could.
By the time the setter touches the ball, her weight momentum is at least stopped, if not moving forward already, to try to sync up with that.
Could have done it a little faster. She could have come down more on the run.
So I want to take a look at her approach a little. One more time.
Position. Yeah, she could have done it a little faster. She could have come down more on the.
So if you look at her approach, is that at that time she didn't know where the set was going to be, whether if it's far out inside, but you can see she stepped away and then she stepped back in. So her feet went from here back to here. So let's back that up a little bit. One more time.
Blocking position. Yeah, she could have
so
done
first
it a little
couple
faster.
steps she was coming that way, and then she went back in
on the run. But just the work she put into that made it so that
yeah, so even at the highest level of play, you're never in sync with your setter. You're probably in sync with your setter maybe 20% to 25% of the time. So your step needs to account for those discrepancies. And she did that perfectly by going outside, knowing that if the ball is out, she can approach from this way and still get a hand on the ball. Given that she saw the set was closer within the court, she, instead of going directly to the ball, she went outside and that way. So this way she got all the options covered.
She can
all right, let's go back to normal speed.
Much better attacker. Now we'll watch two hitters sprinting off. One was Barchi, who was playing on the floor, and the other was Annie Drews. So Annie Drews on the block, she's gonna sprint off. Here comes Barchi from the middle of the court, and now by the time our libero, our bro Justine is setting, look at those two hitters. They were ready to take a great swing. One more time, Jordan Larson sprinting in transition. Look how awkward this is. There's no perfect technique here. She has to get out of the way of the ball, which she does. It's not pretty, but what made it work is her effort. And then she ends up with the kill.
Yeah, so again, her technique is clean, as in it's not the most efficient, it's not the most ideal, but very clean in terms of her step. There was not a lot of false steps shifting her body weight around. So when you see, that's good technique. What's good technique is that you're being efficient with your steps. You're not shifting your body weight around. You're not trying to fight your body's momentum. You're using that momentum to get to the ball. So let's take a look at this one with what the libero did there, getting out of the way. That was very good. That was impressive because. Oh, let me clear the drawing. There we go. That's all cleared. Yeah, this that she doesn't Let's back up a little
The
bit. I
court,
can
and
talk through
now
this.
by the time our libero,
So that
our
was
road
still the
Justine
previous
is
play.
setting, look at those two hitters. They were
All right,
ready to
let's
take
talk
a
about
great
this
swing.
play. She went from all the way there. So one possible thing is that she goes behind the libero here and transition, make a tighter turn rather than doing that way. So go behind to that, but that's just core awareness and heat of the battle. It's kind of hard to say. So she gets out of the way. The libero's here.
More
She
time.
sets the ball and goes outward.
Jordan.
Not being helpful in terms of the cover, but she ensures that it's the best set she can give to the hitter, and now it's in the hitter's hand.
Larson.
And she takes a very smart swing going for that high line, a roll shot.
And sprinting in transition. Look how awkward this is. There's no perfect technique here. She has to get out of the way of the ball, which she does. It's not pretty, but what made it work is her effort. And then she ends up with the kill. So again, it's far more about effort than about perfect technique. Effort is something that is always completely under your control.
Yeah, I would translate that as in you don't need the perfect approach. Is that if the ball is different than what you're expecting, you need to find a way to get to the ball and try to hit it as high as you can.
And we go to our hitter toolkit, the third thing that is completely under your control as a hitter. We often, if we have it, if there's a hole in the block and you can see it, we often swing for that. We call that daylight, swinging for daylight. And when we have it, it's a good thing to do, to swing for that daylight a lot. But what happens if there's no daylight? That's where we want to have a whole set of different solutions and answers to that, what we would call the problem of a well-formed block. And so a good question to ask yourself is, what new solutions can I create? What new solutions can I experiment with, play with in practice, and then eventually get so comfortable that I can use them in a match? So those are good things to think about. And part of that is, a lot of times with a well-formed block, most teams think, ooh, that's a strength. And hitters think, uh-oh, I better stay away from it. But one of the beauties of some of these answers, some of these tools, some of the tools in your kit, is that you can turn their strength, their block, into your strength and actually use it and take that strength away from them. So let's take a look at.
So even before going to the toolkit, is that when I go around asking the team in the gym, hey, what did you see on that hit? Did you see the blocker? A lot of you will just tell me, no, I don't know what's in front of me. So that's something that needs to be worked on even before this toolkit, because the toolkit gives you an opportunity to react to what's in front of you. But if you don't know what's in front of you, there's no way for you to react. So the checklist helps before the play, knowing in the sense that you know how many blockers, how big they are, but the vision on the court will tell you if they're blocking line, cross, how high they are reaching over the net, if there's daylight in the sense that the middle blocker is late and it's jumping horizontal, or not horizontally, diagonally, therefore giving you more room to attack. Those things that needs to be worked on. For me, the I sequence is that when my team is passing the ball, I look at the pass. As soon as the ball is up, before it reaches the setter's hand, I'm transitioning into my spot, getting ready for my first step. I'm not looking at the ball at that moment. I'm scanning the other side of the court. I'm looking at the two blockers in front of me to see where they are. Are they a little more to the middle? Are they spread apart? Because that will tell me where the daylight is. Is that if they're split apart, one's on the left, one's in the middle, If the middle blocker is late, I have a gap to work with. But if they are bunching together in the middle and they're going out to the antenna, I know I have more room on the line to work with. So having that little piece of information helps. So by the time the setter touches the ball, my eyes are back on the setter. As the ball is released on the hand, I'm gauging the speed of the ball and the trajectory of the ball, the angle of the ball, along with the speed of the ball, because that will give me a rough idea of if I need to approach for outside hits or more into the court, if I need to adjust my timing. With a 4-step approach, I already taken my first step as the setter touches the ball, so I'm transitioning into my 3-step approach to see if I need to sort of push myself back to give myself more time or continue going at that point. So each step I'm gauging. For 3-step, that's when you should be in the process of making your first step along with pushing your arms back and pushing your arms back and then taking your step and then pushing yourself onto that first step. But again, every step you should be looking at the trajectory of the ball and adjusting for it. And then at that time, I can see the ball coming from my right to my left. As the ball reaches to my left, I'm using my peripheral vision to scan the hitters one more time to see are they where I'm expecting them to be, as in if I'm expecting to hit line, or if they're bunched up, I'm expecting them to take line. So are they far along? If I see both of them more to the line, then I know, my bias of them blocking line was wrong. Line is more open. I can make a cut shot or hit the deep cross corner. But if they are exactly where I think they will be, my original hypothesis of hitting line, tipping line, hitting deep line, rolling deep line works. So that vision needs to happen. And of course, jumping up, or all of this makes it's a lot easier if you keep the ball in front of you. So if you keep the ball in front of you, you can see the ball in front of you along with the hitter's hand. If you somehow get under the ball, all you will be able to see is the ball and no longer the blocker's arm. So at that point, you're sort of flying blind. You still have the information previously available to you, but you don't have that new information.
Some hitter toolkit work in action here.
Again, the toolkit builds on top of what I talked about in terms of vision. The vision needs to come first. If you don't have it, that's what you need to build first. Knowing when, because at that time you see the block and you have to make a hit, you get blocked, you know exactly what you expect.
Show you a few different answers. Again, this is from the Olympics in Serbia. First, in this rally, we get a great swing. Annie swung for daylight and she caused trouble. Now, our setter took the ball. They have a much better block. And look at that. Barchi reflects the ball back. We call that recycling. What a great answer. She didn't go for the kill. She gets it back. We'll see it in slow motion again. Here is that block. Remember, I told you before in the in the checklist she saw.
Yep. So recycle is probably one of the best and one of the more consistent answers you have when hitting against big blocks. But it also requires your teammate. In terms of coverage, the best spots to cover is right behind the hitter where the libero is covering right now, and then the other one is closer here. So if you get those two spots covered, you're pretty good. Those other three players, they're standing where they're at, seeing they got those two spots covered, so they're good.
Whoa, that's going to be a big block. So she turns their strength into ours and brings the ball right back, recycles it. we get the next swing instead of them. We love that.
Oh, one more thing about that high swing, high line
What a
swing.
great checklist she saw.
It's what I like about it is that she hit the hand right here. If that hand wasn't there and you take a little power off, it's gonna land right in here. That means we get a free ball back or we get the point. It's a very good shot.
Whoa, that's going to be a big block. So she turns their strength into ours and brings the ball right back, recycles it. We get the next swing instead of them. We love that. Another well-formed block because we were in a broken play again. And what does Annie do? She tips, but she knew the libero was there, so she tipped away from the libero. Here's another chance. Great set by our setter, Micah Hancock, and Barchi with a different answer. Watch this time. Again, a pretty well-formed block because this is a broken play by us, but can we squeeze a great swing out of it? Absolutely. Watch Barchi just rip this ball high off the fingers. No answer for that. We turn their block into our strength. And then another time, here comes another broken play. And what happens? Again, Jordan working really hard. In fact, I think I might have shown you this play in terms of the transition part of it. Now watch in terms of the answer. And watch Jordan just for a second here. She's going to take her eye off the ball, then back on. She looked at where the defense was, and she chipped it down the line. That's another great way to score is through this chip. And then finally, one more different answer, different toolkit, push the ball into the block, and again, turn their strength into our strength. Most hitters who are younger will just throw this ball and hope it hits something on the way out of bounds. But instead, Annie is more purposeful here. We want this set to go close. She knows we're going to try to do that. And then
So if you look at, we pause it here, right here is the spots the hitter should be looking for, because the fact it's inside, you can get, from a geometry perspective, it's easier to get a bounce and bounce it out over here rather than try to hit the inside of this hand and bounce it out the other way. So for out of system, it's better to go a little bit inside. Even for in system, I prefer hitting a little bit in the inside rather than directly at the pin here. I feel like my options are limited just because of the angle there. But in terms of vision, in terms of using the block, that angle is what you should be looking at.
He pushes it into the hands and throws it out of bounds. What great answers executed by our hitters there. So I even have a little quiz for you. I showed you some solutions that our hitters used. There are plenty more of those, but a good thing to ask yourself is, what other ones could I bring to bear? Think about some of the situations you've been in where maybe the block was just too difficult to contend with, or you were stuck in a position where you just didn't have much vision. What are some of the things that you could create? And then try to find some time in training, maybe work with your coach to have some experimentation time to be able to work on these new solutions. The solutions that you saw here, they are not making those up for the first time in the Olympics. They want to do that when they're actually home at practice in our home gym and screw it up a lot, because that's a part of learning, and practice those until they become much more comfortable with that. So to review, 3 ways that you can upgrade your attacker solutions. 1 is your hitter checklist. You can quiz yourself on the 3 parts to that checklist. Number 2, transition, and I have work underlined here because that's the key. Far more than technique is just working your tail off to get available. So your setter or anybody else on the court who has to set the ball can get you something that you can swing at. And then finally, what else can you add to your hitter toolkit? Those are the 3 parts or 3 great opportunities for you to upgrade as an attacker.
Yeah, a lot of big concepts here in this video, but it takes years and years of work to train any individual skill. Even the transition footwork, it will probably take a beginner years to get it done correctly, to use the most efficient footwork to cover the most options based on the set. So like anything in life, it takes a lot of time and effort and practice. So look for ways to practice that in the gym. That if you are comfortable hitting a single shot, that means that tool is sharp enough. You need to move on to something else, because the more of these tools you have, combined with better vision, the more you can deal with the blockers and score points for your team and mess with the other team. All right, so yeah, let me know if you have any questions on any of these. A lot of concepts to cover. I can try to do more videos and try to break things down. All right, bye.